Trump just had meltdown during Oval Office press conference when pressed about appearing 38,000 times in Epstein files, and sources suggest his explosion at CNN's Caitlin Collins might reveal desperation.
Time for the country to get onto something else, really. Now that nothing came out about me, other than it was a conspiracy against me, literally, by Epstein and other people. But I think it's time now for the country to maybe get onto something else.
We're not talking about calm president deflecting questions with prepared talking points. We're talking about reports that when Collins asked about Trump's Epstein connections, he attacked her personally, saying, "You're a young woman and you don't smile, you need to smile more." That he called her worst reporter and said, "I don't think I've ever seen you smile," when she pressed about survivors whose information was exposed in file release. That he claimed he's been vindicated despite 38,000 references in 5,000 documents, including what sources describe as grotesque allegations. That he said Elon Musk and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick appearing in files with Epstein connections are fine, otherwise it would be major headlines, while UK's Lord Mandelson was forced to resign over less extensive Epstein ties. And what might make this moment so significant is pattern of deflection. Sources suggest Trump claimed this is Democrat problem, while his own officials appear throughout documents. Said country should move on, while survivors say their identities were exposed protecting powerful men. Reports indicate claimed Putin kept word on Ukraine's ceasefire when attacks resumed, showing pattern of lying about everything. When president melts down attacking female reporters' appearance for asking legitimate questions, when he dismisses survivors' trauma, when he lies about officials in his circle being connected, that's not innocent person wrongly accused. That could be guilty person watching scandal he can't contain consuming his administration. But before we break down Trump's specific attacks on Collins and why his claim about being vindicated contradicts 38,000 references in documents, real quick. You cannot trust mainstream media to connect how Trump's meltdown, his deflection to Democrats, and his dismissal of survivors all reveal consciousness of guilt. That's why we built John Brown Show, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want analysis that actually exposes how presidents panic over Epstein files, shows scandal he can't spin away, hit that subscribe button right now. All right, let's get into what Trump actually said and why sources suggest his responses reveal panic rather than confidence. Because think about how innocent person would handle questions about appearing in documents. Would calmly explain limited nature of contact, express sympathy for victims, support full transparency to clear name. Reports indicate wouldn't attack reporters' appearance, wouldn't tell woman she needs to smile more, wouldn't deflect to claiming Democrats are real problem. But Trump did all of that. When Collins asked about his Epstein relationships, he exploded, calling her worst reporter, saying CNN has no ratings, attacking her for not smiling. Sources suggest that's not addressing substance. That's personal attack designed to intimidate and deflect. Then claimed he's been vindicated, said nothing came out about me despite 38,000 references including allegations he has to deny. Said country should move on to something people care about, while survivors say their information was exposed. Reports indicate when asked about officials like Musk and Lutnick appearing in files, Trump said, "I'm sure they're fine, otherwise it would be major headlines." When told UK's Mandelson resigned over Epstein connections, Trump said, "It's too bad," showing no understanding why associations matter. When you combine personal attacks on reporter with false vindication claims, with dismissal of survivors, with deflection to Democrats, with lies about Putin's ceasefire, pattern emerges of president who can't address scandal on merits, so attacks questioners and lies about everything, hoping to muddy waters enough that people stop paying attention. Let's start with Trump's explosion at Caitlin Collins, because sources suggest this reveals his strategy when cornered. Collins asked what Trump would say to survivors whose information was exposed in file release. Reports indicate Trump's response wasn't addressing survivors, was attacking Collins personally. "You are the worst reporter. No wonder CNN has no ratings because of people like you." Then pivoted to her appearance. "You know she's a young woman. I don't think I've ever seen you smile. I've known you for 10 years. I don't think I've ever seen a smile on your face." Think about what this means. Sources suggest Collins asked legitimate question about survivors who were re-traumatized by having their identities exposed while powerful men's names got protected. Trump's response was telling woman reporter she needs to smile more. Reports indicate that's not answering question. That's sexist attack designed to demean and dismiss. Classic tactic from someone who can't address substance, so attacks questioner's character or appearance, hoping to change subject from their scandal to reporters' supposed bias or attitude. And there's what Trump claimed about CNN. Sources suggest, said Collins not telling truth, called CNN dishonest organization, said they should be ashamed of you. But Collins's questions were factual. Trump does appear 38,000 times in documents. Reports indicate survivors have complained about information exposure. Musk and Lutnick do appear in files. These aren't opinions or attacks. These are documented facts Trump can't refute, so he attacks Messenger instead. When president's response to factual questions is personal attacks on reporters' smile and credibility, that might signal he has no good answers to actual questions being asked. Think about pattern this continues. Sources suggest Trump has history of attacking female reporters who press him on uncomfortable topics, telling them they're nasty, they're not smart, they ask stupid questions. Reports indicate this wasn't an isolated incident. This is his standard playbook when women won't let him deflect. Attack their appearance, attack their professionalism, question their intelligence, anything to avoid addressing substance of their questions. When tactic is this consistent and this gendered, that reveals not just personal insecurity, but calculated strategy to intimidate and silence through personal attacks. But step back and consider Trump's claim he's been vindicated, because sources suggest this directly contradicts what documents show. Trump said, "Nothing came out about me," and claimed there was conspiracy against me literally by Epstein and other people. Reports indicate, but documents contain 38,000 references to Trump across 5,000 different documents. Some are news clippings, but some are allegations, FBI reports, witness statements. That's not nothing. That's extensive documentation of relationship and allegations Trump has to deny. Think about what Trump's trying to do. Sources suggest by claiming vindication loudly and repeatedly, he hopes people won't actually read documents. Won't see that 38,000 references include allegations he calls false. Reports indicate won't notice that only 3 million documents released, while 3 million more might still be concealed. Won't question why his DOJ declared review complete, while survivors say abusers remain protected. Trump's claiming victory, hoping volume of his assertions overwhelms actual content of files. When you repeat, "I've been vindicated" enough times, some people believe it without checking whether claim matches evidence. And there's deflection to Democrats. Sources suggest Trump said, "It's really a Democrat problem. It's not a Republican. The only problem Republicans have is we have to get back to running country." But Democrats appearing in files doesn't erase Trump appearing 38,000 times. Reports indicate both can be true. Multiple people can have Epstein connections. Trump's trying to make this partisan to activate his base's instinct to dismiss anything Democrats criticize. If he can frame Epstein's scandal as Democrat attack rather than legitimate concern about documented associations, his supporters might defend him reflexively without examining evidence. Share this video with everyone you know, because there's how Trump dismissed survivors. Sources suggest when Collins asked about women whose information was exposed, Trump said, "I'm sure they're fine, otherwise it would be major headlines." Reports indicate that's dismissing their trauma as not newsworthy enough to matter. Survivors and their attorneys have said victims were re-traumatized by having identities exposed, while powerful men got protected. Federal judges held emergency hearings about this, but Trump's response is, "I'm sure they're fine," as if their documented suffering isn't worth his attention or concern. When president dismisses victims this casually, that might reveal he sees them as obstacles to his narrative rather than people who deserve justice and protection. But let's examine Trump's response about officials in his circle appearing in documents, because sources suggest this reveals his protect the team instinct. Collins asked about Elon Musk and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick having Epstein connections documented in files. Trump said, "I didn't read those files. I have a lot of things I'm doing. You mentioned 2 names. I'm sure they're fine. I'm sure they're fine. otherwise it would be major headlines. Think about what's wrong with this response. Sources suggest Trump saying if Musk and Lutnick had serious Epstein problems, media would be covering it extensively, so since he hasn't seen wall-to-wall coverage, they must be fine. Reports indicate, but it is major headlines. Lutnick's island visit with his children, his charity donation from Epstein, his coordination with Epstein on opposing museum expansion, all documented and being covered. Trump's claiming something isn't news while it's literally being reported shows either he's not paying attention or he's lying to minimize scandal affecting his officials. And there's comparison to UK's Lord Mandelson. Sources suggest Collins told Trump that Mandelson, former UK ambassador to US, was forced to resign from House of Lords over his Epstein links. Trump's response was, "I didn't know about it, but I really don't know too much about it. I know who he is, but it's too bad." Reports indicate that's it. No reflection on why UK takes Epstein associations seriously enough to force resignations while Trump dismisses similar connections among his own officials. No consideration that maybe there's standard of conduct around associating with convicted sex trafficker that powerful people should be held to. Just too bad and moving on. When other countries are forcing officials out over Epstein ties while Trump protects his team members with same connections, that might show different standards of accountability rather than different levels of guilt. Share this with everyone because there's what this reveals about Trump's priorities. Sources suggest he's not concerned about whether his officials had inappropriate relationships with Epstein. He's concerned about protecting them from political damage. Reports indicate doesn't matter what they actually did. What matters is keeping team together, maintaining loyalty, preventing scandal from spreading. So he dismisses allegations, claims people are fine without investigating, treats serious questions as partisan attacks. When president's instinct is always protect rather than investigate, when he dismisses concerns without examining evidence, that might show he prioritizes loyalty over accountability even when documented associations with sex trafficker are at issue. So here's what Oval Office blow-up reveals. Trump melted down when CNN's Caitlin Collins asked about his 38,000 references in Epstein files, calling her worst reporter and telling her, "You're a young woman, you need to smile more," instead of addressing substance. He claimed he's been vindicated despite appearing in 5,000 documents, including allegations he denies. Said country should move on while survivors say their information was exposed, protecting powerful men. When asked about Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and Elon Musk appearing in files with Epstein connections, Trump said, "I'm sure they're fine, otherwise it would be major headlines," while it is major headlines. When told UK's Lord Mandelson resigned over Epstein ties, Trump said, "It's too bad," showing no concern. He claimed this is Democrat problem, deflecting from his own 38,000 references. Sources suggest when Collins asked about survivors whose identities were exposed, Trump dismissed, saying, "I'm sure they're fine," despite documented re-traumatization. He lied about Putin keeping word on Ukraine's ceasefire when attacks resumed Sunday night, showing pattern of lying about everything. When president responds to factual questions about documented Epstein connections by attacking female reporters, smile. When he claims vindication despite thousands of references, when he dismisses survivors' trauma and protects officials in his circle with similar associations, when he deflects to Democrats and lies about ceasefire to change subject, that's not innocent person wrongly accused. That might be guilty person watching scandal he can't contain, using every deflection tactic available from personal attacks to false claims to dismissal of victims, all revealing consciousness of guilt about associations documents prove existed regardless of how much he claims to be vindicated. Stay tuned.